Hi, this is Bill Patton with 720 Read Coaching, and I want to make a disclaimer at the beginning of this segment that I'm going to be very intentional about not trying to make light of anything. And so if there's anything about my tone or inflection or whatever that strikes you funny, it's not my intention. So I just wanted to say that up front because I'm really happy to have my friend Michelle Cleere on. And we're going to talk a little bit about mental health, and towards the end we're going to talk about it's going to be a little bit more serious. So we're going to go through some tips on some things that you can do if you're going a little stir crazy. Like Sunday morning I woke up and I'm like, you know what, I'm already tired of this. So hi Michelle, how are you?
Hey Bill, how are you? I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
I know, I'm really glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about your background so that people can understand, why you have some expertise in helping out this way.
Sure. Well, I'm an elite performance expert. So I basically help elite performers of many different kinds develop their coping skills and mental skills. But on top of that, I have a master's degree in sports psychology and a PhD in clinical psychology. So I do have some background in some of the conversation that we're going to have today, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. And it's funny because I was actually going clinical and came to the epiphany that I would make a pretty horrible psychological counselor of any type. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, so let's just go right into what makes this time so unique for most people, but some people really haven't really left their sweet spot so much.
Yeah, this is a pretty challenging time for everyone. I mean, this is not something that any of us are prepared for. We weren't expecting it, and so that already sets us up for being in a place that we're just not prepared for, right? And now we're in this place where we're all shelter in, right? Which is another scary place for people to be, because there's so many things about being inside and not having the choice to go outside, to be around people, to do the things that we normally do. And then of course there's kind of the third prong where there's excuse me, this fear of the unknown. Like, where are we going? What's going to happen after this? How long is this going to be? Like, what is life going to be on the other side of this? I was just talking to my neighbor about that. It's like, we don't know. So we all have to sort of be and sit in this place of sort of discomfort and fear and unknown. And it's a hard place to be in for all of us.
Yeah. Well, and there's many silver linings to be found, because because the new normal could be better. I think a lot of people have gained new perspective on what's really important all of a sudden. So okay, now, so what's a really fundamental tip on stuff that you can do to just keep your mind on the right stuff and away from the darkness?
Well, this is a really great time to find some other things that you really enjoy to do. I mean, I talk to clients all the time who don't have hobbies. I don't really have a lot of hobbies. Most of my hobbies are, being active and doing things outside, and some of that with other people. So, it's definitely been a challenge for me, as I know it is for other people. But this is a really great time to find some hobbies, to find some other things, to think outside of the box, to get creative. For some of us who are a little bit older, it's tapping into things that we used to do that we haven't done in a really long time. So I know that might sound kind of cliche, but it is a really good time to sort of figure out how to incorporate some balance, to sort of really get in touch with yourself, get in touch with what's going on inside, maybe find some ways to be able to deal with stress, anxiety, meditation, yoga, doing some relaxation things. Because again, like this is the time where we, there might be moments or hours or days for some of us where, we don't talk to other people and we're isolated, and you got to figure out, some positive things that you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's using technology like FaceTime or Zoom or what have you to connect with people face to face can be a really good thing. I recently saw that the state of Texas is currently out drinking California. So, yeah, and so and I have to admit, I've been having a bit more alcohol than I normally do, and I don't think I'm an alcoholic. Nobody's told me that they think I am, but it's something to consider. So when it comes to health practices and establishing sort of rules for moderation, how do you do that?
Well, it's definitely hard because, we want to fall back on the things that are, sort of comfort for us, right? And for some of us, like that can be drinking or things that kind of numb us out or distract us from kind of the reality of what's happening. So, that might be eating more, that might be eating more bad food, that might be drinking more, smoking more marijuana. I mean, there could be a variety of things that people are using right now to, sort of step outside of what's happening. And again, I think it's a challenge. I mean, I'm definitely drinking a little bit more than I usually drink too. And for me, it's really about thinking about that, am I okay with that? Right? Am I going above and beyond maybe what I should be doing? So, trying to sort of self-reflect on that a little bit and decide if this is in an okay place. This is in a moderately okay place. This isn't a place where, ooh, I don't know if I should be going down that road sort of place. So there's obviously different levels to that.
Yeah. So what would you normally ask someone if you're trying to counsel them on a similar issue and help them come to a place of self-discovery on that?
I would talk to them about, if we're just talking about alcohol, for example, I would talk to them about how much alcohol, we try to get specific as possible. How much alcohol, is this every day that you're drinking that amount of alcohol? How is this getting in the way of other things that you should or have to be doing, schooling your kids, working, other daily things? How do you feel when you wake up in the morning? So yeah, there's definitely a variety of questions that we would ask people to sort of check in with them to see, if this is a problem.
Yeah. One thing I'll throw on there too, and it's pretty common sense, is as much as possible, maintain your same daily routine. So
right.
Get up, take a shower, put your big pants on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't walk around in your jammies all day long. It won't make you feel very grown up necessarily.
Yeah, routines for all of us, for kids, for adults, for all of us is still really important. It doesn't have to be the same routine that you were on before all of this happened, but coming up with a routine, I think, is really, really critical. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So any other sort of, mild things before we kind of move into, kind of the more serious stuff of red flags people should be looking out for?
Well, I definitely like what you said and have talked about this on social media as well about, reaching out to people, using more Zoom, using more Facebook Live. I've been doing the same myself, really reaching out to friends and family and neighbors, just even really saying hi to people more when I'm, walking down the street with the dog or, whatever it is. So I think that is critical. I think when the weather's nice, Being able to get out your front door, and even if you just sit on the porch, right, in the sun, soaking up some vitamin D, or get out and walk around the block and then go back inside your house. So I think there's definitely some fairly simple things that, again, during this time, I think can be important and helpful.
All right. So this is going to be a pretty short overall thing. So we're gonna get into some difficult stuff now, and and I know I'm speaking for myself, and I think also Michelle's probably similar. In my life, I've been in some pretty dark places, and places where I needed to pull my bootstraps up and buckle my belt a little tighter and get the hell out. And other places where somebody needed to help me.
Yeah.
So what are some of the red flags that people should look for in others that might mean that it's time to call a hotline or get another friend in, or something, some kind of intervention? What do you look for there?
Oh, yeah. Well, this actually just happened to me last week. A friend of a friend reached out and said, my friend's sister has been talking about hurting herself. So I talked to the sister about what was going on. And one of the things to look for is changes in behavior, right? So her sister had said, that she didn't want to live anymore, which is a change in language and thinking for her sister, right? So of course we always want to be looking for those things. When those things happen, then that's not like immediately like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen sort of thing. But when we notice changes in behavior, changes in language, when we notice that people are struggling to get out of bed, or they're sleeping like 18 hours a day, or they're drinking way too much, or smoking way too much marijuana, or taking drugs, or they haven't showered for, I don't know, several days, or brushed their teeth, or, and again, like, none of these things necessarily mean that someone is going to harm themselves, right? But again, we're always looking for these changes. And then the next sort of level, and this is the conversation that I had with the friend of the friend.
Before we go to the next level.
Yeah, sure.
So one thing that I'd heard, and maybe you can fill me in on this too, is that if someone were to use words that mention hurting themselves, and I don't want to use that particular word.
Yeah.
But I've been told that that's a pretty serious red flag, even if someone's referencing someone else. If they bring the word up, it's kind of like, wait a minute, people don't use that word. So why is that on your mind?
Okay, well, so let me just if someone is to say, I want to hurt myself, that's one thing. If someone is to say that they want to kill themselves, that's another thing, right? So those are a little bit of different levels.
Okay.
During this time with everything that's going on, people saying that they want to hurt themselves is definitely concerning language, but given everything that's going on, it makes sense to a certain degree, right? We're in these situations of like fear fraught with doubt and unknown and sickness and death and right? We're confronted with this stuff on a daily basis.
Right.
And then we're trapped inside our house. So when we're in these kind of situations, sometimes we feel like we don't know what else to do. And our only option is, I want to hurt myself, right? Because we feel like if we do that, we're going to feel better, right? That's sort of like the chain of thinking there. But, wanting to kill yourself is obviously, it is kind of a next level. And in that situation, and going back to what I was going to say earlier, if someone mentions wanting to kill themselves, which is very serious, just that switch in language is very serious. But
Yeah.
Also, if they start talking about how they're going to do it, when they're going to do it, those are very serious things. So those are the times when and this is what I said to this friend of a friend. I said, if you were to hear any of these things, that is when, you would call the police department, and the police would go to your sister's house because they don't live in the same place. They would go to your sister's house and they would do what's called a wellness check. Fortunately in this situation, her sister had talked about wanting to hurt herself, which again is alarming, right? Alarming for anybody. And I said, make sure that you check in with her, make sure that you FaceTime with her. Does she have anyone near her that's family or friends that she feels close with, that she trusts, she respects? Yes, make sure that, she's in contact with them. Has she been in therapy? Yes. Does she have a therapist? Yes. Make sure, I would have the conversation with her around talking with her therapist. We talked about having the suicide hotline number, because, if things do escalate, you should have it, your sister should have it, right? So this is some of the thinking.
Yeah. So, and I think this is going to be the last thing too. So now, I mean, sometimes there are people who are in situations where there's a history of abuse, physical, mental, emotional, and there's a long-standing pattern, and now those people are forced together. So, I mean, it would only make sense that would be the time to reach out. And I understand that there's like 3 times more domestic calls happening at this time. So now, what about a case where maybe it's like people are now together and somebody gets physical or gets really, angry to the point where it's really poisoning the atmosphere, and the person's hesitant. I mean, this is an isolated incident. I'm going to be very forgiving of them because of the situation. Where do you draw the line on that?
Well, I never draw the line on that. I mean, that's right. But
no, yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say that probably for that person who's in that abusive situation, it's probably not really that much different than it is on a daily basis, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. Except for the fact that maybe that person is there, the other person is there 24/7. But the fear for that other person is there 24/7. They're afraid. Most people who are abused, like, they really are afraid to go out, so they don't go out that often anyway. Yeah, that's again, a very difficult situation, especially during this time where we all have to be sort of, shut in together. There's not really, other than to call the police, there's sort of not really a better way to deal with that kind of situation. Obviously, in better times, it's like, get out, right? But obviously that's not where we're at right now. Get out. So yeah, it's not a great time, unfortunately, to be figuring out how to deal with those situations, especially if it's been happening for a long time. I mean, if it is a first time situation, then, and there's a way for you to safely, like, get out and be around other people who have been shut in, then I would say that probably is your best bet.
Yeah. Okay. I think I lied. I think I got one more for you. So, and I got to do this. Bear with me a second. So let's say somebody's been in denial about whether they're the abuser. Is there a way, I mean, there's a chance somebody watching this might think that their anger is justified and everything would be okay if everyone just stopped pissing them off, right? So, and I've been that person. So that's what, and so I had to kind of come to grips with that sort of stuff, so how do you help somebody come to the discovery of the fact that they're the problem?
Well, let me just say this probably isn't the best time to help someone come to that, come to that conclusion.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's really difficult. I think a lot of times people have to reach rock bottom, whatever that looks like for you. Uh, yeah, I mean, you kind of gotta wanna change, and you kind of gotta wanna get help, because otherwise the things that we do, we think are okay, right? I mean, anything, from abuse all the way down, right? We just think what we do is what we do, and it's okay, because that's what we do. And it can be, I mean, sometimes we can see through other people that what we're doing is not the right thing, but I think, as someone who is an abuser, like, that can be really hard, right? Because if you've been an abuser a lot of your life, or throughout this, most of this relationship you're in, or, whatever it is, or even if you're just an angry person. I mean, I think it can be really hard to recognize that your anger is maybe not the best thing, and that it has a huge impact on everyone around you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm coming back to that phrase, hurt people hurt people. And so, maybe there's hope for somebody to reflect on the fact that they're lashing out because there's something that they're angry about because they were hurt by someone else. So, any final thoughts as we wrap this up?
I don't know. I would just say that I think this is a really good reset for the world. I mean, I think that, going back to what you said earlier, I think there are a lot of positive things about what's happening right now. Not everything is positive, of course, but I think that there's going to be a lot of changes that come from this that are going to be good. And I think if you can hang on and just kind of move through the moments and reach out to people, if there's anything I can do to help, please, feel free to reach out to me, ask questions, set up a time to chat. I'm absolutely available for that. Of course, I want to do my part in this. And just know that, I mean, I've heard this so many times, but we are all in this together.
Yeah, no, it's a great statement, and the more everybody buys in on that, the better. And I'm with you. If somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm available. And there are a lot of really good, caring people in the tennis industry and in the general sports industry who will be there for you. You might be really surprised at who makes themselves available to you. So.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And I think the last thing is, I keep saying, look, health is not just about physical health, it's about mental health. So, this is a really great time to, focus on both of those things combined. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate everybody here watching. And, I want everybody to be watchful, of themselves and others that they care about. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Smashing.
Excellent.
I appreciate that. Now I got to get on Instagram Live with Devor DeCaris, however you say his name.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Bye, Michelle.
Yeah.